All right. Let's get it straight. How's it going? Greetings. Welcome. Good to see you. It's Friday. It's Friday all day. And welcome. We're live on YouTube, Rockfin, and on Twitter. And thanks, Victory Jen, for sending me a comment on Twitter. Victory Jen being ultra cool for doing that. And so I bring this show to you for free every single day. And if you enjoy watching the show and want the show to keep on airing every single day, because there's actually a legitimate chance that the show could not be airing every day. If you want the show to continue going forward, please consider donating via various methods: Super Chat, Super Ray, coffees, buymeacoffee.com, Cash App, Venmo, PayPal. There's so many opportunities. There's links in the description box where you can do all that. And I will check in on the donations later, and give you all a shout out. And you know how it works. All right. But thank you guys for tuning in. I do appreciate it. I do. All right. What's going on? Steve Austin posted this. Hawaii is on the verge of a catastrophe, locals say, as water crisis continues. It's kind of a long... there's a video to this, which is a rather long video, but we're not going to watch the video. We're going to read some words. Reading is fundamental, and hopefully everybody learned to do that when they were kids. All right. In Hawaii, one of the most important sayings is "Ola I Kawai," water is life. A phrase that not only sums up what it means to exist on an island, but what it means to live, period. But now, one of the largest of the island chains, land masses, is facing a triple threat to its sole freshwater source. And if it isn't addressed soon, one community member says, we're in deep trouble. Despite being surrounded by seemingly endless ocean, freshwater on Oahu, the third largest of Hawaii's 6 major islands, is not easily accessible. The island relies on an underground aquifer for its water supply. Replenishing that aquifer is a decades-long natural process, as it takes a single drop of water roughly 25 years to make it there from the sky. And recent years have seen compounding problems: less rain, leading to significant droughts, and repeated jet fuel leaks. You guys remember that article? We read about the Navy leaking jet fuel into their fresh water supply in Hawaii. And PFAS chemical spills contaminating water systems. All of this is significantly limits available water use for many locals. many of whom say tourism is only worsening the situation. Because when you don't have enough water, what you want is a lot of people coming over and enjoying the little water you have left. All of this, let's see. Just months ago, the world's largest surfing wave pool opened up on the island, filled with fresh water. They're not using it to drink or to support life. They're using it to make money. They're commodifying it, said Hilani Sonoda Pale, who is native Hawaiian and a member of advocacy group Oahu Water Protectors. We are on the verge of a greater catastrophe. We are in a water crisis. That has to be made very clear. Wayne Tanaka, director of Sierra Club of Hawaii, told CBS News, saying that if the reasons for the crisis aren't soon addressed, we may come to a point where we have to decide who gets water and who doesn't. On an island, rain is essential. Statewide, rainfall averages range widely from just 8 inches to around 400 inches a year. Thomas Giambeluca, director of the University of Hawaii at Manoa Water Resources Research Center, told CBS News there is a massive difference just minutes apart. Some areas are extremely dry, while others have the wettest climate in the U.S. At the university campus, where CBS News spoke with Giambeluca, the average yearly rainfall is about 60 inches a year, while nearby Waikiki, 2 miles away, gets 20 inches. Water supplies depend on that rainfall, with drier areas having a smaller supply, but those drier areas also face higher demand, as they are where tourists flock and many locals reside. And because the drinking water supply is almost entirely from groundwater, shifting weather patterns can pose a major problem. We have the problem of getting water to where it's needed from where it can be found, Giambeluca said. When the rain doesn't come, we don't have any second chance. We don't have any other way to get our water supply. We can't pipe it in from a nearby state. Is there a possibility that, I mean, would you call tourism a population pressure? Right. You have people there that are already, they have scarce water, et cetera, et cetera. Some of the water, and less rainfall, some water being tainted by chemicals and jet fuel. And then your whole, economy relies on basically shipping people in to your neighborhood to come hang out and spend money drinking up water. I don't know. Just asking the question. Do you think this is a population situation? Currently, the entire island of Oahu is considered abnormally dry, according to the U.S. Drought Monitor. Severe and persistent droughts prompting water conservation measures are not uncommon. Giambeluca said while officials could work to desalinate ocean water, that's not the preferred way to get drinking water, he added. It's very energy intensive, and so that would be in opposition to our goals of reducing our dependency on fossil fuels in Hawaii, reducing our emissions, he said. And as global temperatures continue to rise, that will only get worse. Yes, there are ways to do it with solar. That also takes time and takes space, right? You can do it with solar, but how much can you actually get from those apparatuses is the question. As global temperatures continue to rise, that will only get worse, not just in Oahu, but across Hawaii. Hawaii is getting drier and drier, particularly since the 1980s. State climatologist Pao Shin Chu said The consecutive dry days become longer and longer, that's very clear. But drought isn't the only issue. Warmer global temperatures also fuel more extreme precipitation, bringing more rain in a shorter duration. According to GM Beluga, that won't necessarily help maintain the water supply, as steep watersheds will channel that water into flooding, and rising sea levels will prevent rainwater from having a place to go, not even into the aquifer. Rising seas are already causing significant erosion on coastlines. Gianbaluca explained that as sea levels rise, the ocean will infiltrate the underground freshwater system, physically pushing that resource out, while also infiltrating wells and other components of the water supply system that will need to be adjusted. That is already happening in many other places on the planet as well. It is already affecting those water systems, Gianbaluca said. There's no question that climate change is going to make problems caused by other factors worse. In fact, some evidence suggests that after 2030, there will be less groundwater to extract from, Chu said, adding that's going to be a problem. For Anthony DeLuz, it already is a problem. He manages farmland on Oahu, nestled in between Pearl Harbor, a highway, and a shopping center. His land is spring-fed, which he uses to primarily grow taro, a root vegetable considered a sacred staple in native Hawaiian food and culture, but climate change has made growing taro for his family and community much more difficult. The biggest challenge is water, he said. Without water, there is no life. DeLuz has managed the land he is on for more than a decade, but within the past 5 years, he said the water table has significantly dropped. What have we seen over the past 5 years, basically all over the planet? We've seen a rise in the obvious effects of climate change, right? In the past 5 years, we've seen some very significant signs that climate change is advancing. Excuse me. Right, we're seeing a steeper rise in temperatures. We're seeing, much more extreme weather events, many more. And we're seeing, obviously rising sea levels and, king tides everywhere, especially in Hawaii. A healthy Loai water taro system needs about 250,000 gallons per day, per acre, for it to be healthy, he said. We're probably getting, in the summertime, about 35,000 per day, and if we're lucky, maybe about 40 to 45,000 in the wintertime per day, and this is 3 acres, so we're not even hitting a fraction of what we need. It's not just a lack of clean water. Not just a lack of water, it's a lack of clean water. Water quality and water quantity are tied together. Jim Beluga said water contamination is always going to impact water quantity and water availability. And they're going to go into the Navy. We'll just read this section here. Across the highway from DeLuz's farm lies Pearl Harbor and Joint Base Pearl Harbor Hickam, where in November 2021 there was a jet fuel leak in the Navy's World War II-era underground storage tanks. Nearly 20,000 gallons of jet fuel leaked out of the Red Hill bulk fuel storage facility, contaminating the base's water system and sickening thousands of military families and locals, many of whom say they are still reeling from the health impacts. The Board of Water Supply instantly had to shut down 3 wells that supply water to the island, as the aquifer sits just below Red Hill. A year later, the same facility saw a major leak of 1,300 gallons of AFFF, a fire suppressant that contains PFAS, otherwise known as forever chemicals. We can't farm with fuel. We can't live, period, DeLuz said. The military has since cleaned up the bulk of the lost fuel and chemicals, but many officials believe some of both could have ended up in the environment regardless. Red Hill did spark off this crisis. Sierra Club's Wayne Tanaka told CBS News, if we lose our water, every aspect of life will be impacted and upended, not just for the next few years, but for the next few generations. And so many places are having these issues, right? Decreasing freshwater supplies, decreasing water availability in general. And this is just more indications of an ongoing crisis. By the way, I forgot in the beginning of the video, I forgot to let you all know I am doing another music show on Sunday, 5 p.m. Pacific. If y'all want to hang out and watch some music by yours truly, and my buddy Olesis is going to be playing drums. Should be pretty cool. Working up a few new tunes for y'all. If you tuned in last Sunday, should be a good time. I'm gonna drop a link for the show, and hit that link if you want to watch the show. And hopefully we'll see you on Sunday for that. And I will also drop it on Twitter. People retweeting and liking the video on Twitter, I appreciate you. You guys are great. All right. Let's move on. Well, we're just going to go through a few. There's a lot of extreme flooding, weather events, flooding, etc. going on. So we're going to just cover a little bit of that. So this is pretty much all across the U.S. Severe storms carved a path from the Gulf of Mexico to the northeast this week, causing widespread flooding. Pennsylvania, South Carolina, all kinds of places got hit. Sorry. Also, Russia is still experiencing ongoing flooding issues. Damage from the flood emergency in Russia estimated to exceed $428 million, and the situation looks set to worsen as the Ural River keeps swelling. U.S. This is in West Virginia. I think part of the same storm. Drenching storms turn roads into rivers in West Virginia, creating hazards for motorists. It's in Charleston, West Virginia. That does not look like a good time. And here is in France. They're had issues. I mean, all across Europe, there were some heavy storms that hit in the last week. Large waves and significant flooding in Saint-Malo, France. This is from a couple of days ago. Crazy. Look at that wave break over that house. Issues. We have issues. And we'll look at this update. We talked about Africa, Zimbabwe having water, also having water issues. Zimbabwe has declared a state of disaster over a drought that has left over more than 2.5 million people facing hunger. And we covered a little bit of this yesterday. We'll just listen to this update here.
Mass hunger, malnutrition and water scarcity have gripped southern Africa. Zimbabwe has joined the list of countries reeling under extreme climate crisis. The country has declared its drought as a national disaster. This is the fourth consecutive year when the country is forced to do so. The alarm follows earlier declarations by Zambia and Malawi. At the center of the crisis are more than 2.7 million Zimbabweans who will go hungry this year. Zimbabwe's President Emmerson Mnangagwa has said the country needs over $2 billion in aid to respond to this emergency. The president added that no Zimbabwean must succumb to or die from hunger. The international non-governmental organization Oxfam has described southern Africa as the climate crisis hotbed. The drought has been fueled by El Nino, which is a natural climate pattern originating in the Pacific Ocean along the equator. The phenomenon impacts weather all over the world and is responsible for bringing soaring temperatures and low rainfall in parts of Africa. And this is not where it stops. In case of rainfall, the dried out barren land is unable to absorb the water, leading to flooding. The crisis is deepening as southern Africa enters its traditional dry season in April, amid battling an already prolonged dry spell. As per the United Nations, the rainfall levels from late January to February were the lowest in the last at least 40 years. Central parts of southern Africa faced the driest February in the last 100 years. Oxfam's Southern Africa program has called on donors to immediately release aid to prevent the quote-unquote unimaginable humanitarian situation, which is set to follow.
All right. It's ongoing water and food crisis in Zimbabwe. All right, we're going to look at this story from Tara Hughes, or Via. From the Canberra Times, scientists despair as even deep corals cook. This is from yesterday. At Heron Island, 70 kilometers off the Queensland coast, corals that sit in 20 meters of water are slowly cooking. It's as hot down there as it is on the surface, and there's nothing normal about that. Corals have turned ghostly white at depths that should be cool. Even species typically good at dealing with heat are ailing. It's too soon to say how many will die, but coral expert Selena Ward is rattled by her recent trips to Heron Island, nearby One Tree Island and Sykes Reef, which is roughly in between. Every single one of the sites we went to, the bleaching was unbelievably severe. It's the worst I've seen, and I can't get my head around it. Dr. Ward is no stranger to mass coral bleaching events, having worked on the reef for 30 years, including a stint as academic director at the University of Queensland Heron Island Research Station. But this event, the fifth in just 8 years, has left her reaching for words like devastated and heartbroken to describe how she's feeling. We cannot expect to save the Great Barrier Reef and be opening new fossil fuel developments, she says. It's time to act, and there are no more excuses. She points to the chorus of warnings from Australia's leading reef scientists. People such as Terry Hughes, an emeritus professor at James Cook University who sits on an independent panel of reef experts that advises the government. This is the most widespread and most severe mass bleaching and mortality event ever recorded on the Great Barrier Reef, he broadcast on X, formerly Twitter, this week. The Great Barrier Reef Marine Park Authority last week released its latest reef health update with little fanfare despite shocking figures about the scale of the event. There was no media release from the Commonwealth Authority, which reports to Federal Environment Minister Tanya Plibersek, nor was there one from the minister, although she did comment later when asked. Instead, the Marine Park Authority used its social media channels late on Friday afternoon to advise the update was available. Those who clicked through to the authority's website learned bleaching was occurring on 75% of more than 1,000 individual reefs surveyed from the air, with half of them suffering high or very high levels of damage. There was a warning the danger had not passed, with heat stress building in parts of the reef. The news coincided with an unannounced visit by the government's special envoy for the reef, Nita Green, and Marine Park Authority CEO Josh Thomas to UNESCO in Paris. The government is trying to keep the reef off the list of World Heritage Sites in danger. It also emerged the Marine Park Authority has updated its climate change position statement to remove any reference to fossil fuels and the need for strong national action on climate change alongside international action. Interesting. AAP has sought comment from the authority. The Australian Marine Conservation Society has released footage and images from Dr. Ward's reef tour and is demanding the authority release maps to show the extent of the bleaching. Wow. That's fairly amazing. Or not amazing at all. The Marine Authority is actually withholding information and removing references to fossil fuels or the danger of climate change to the reefs. The Australian Marine Conservation Society has released footage. I read that if this was a bushfire, it would be declared a national disaster, but because it is underwater and out of sight, it is not getting the attention it should be by our leaders, said marine ecologist and reef campaigner Lisa Schindler. Well, when things really start falling apart, I guess the best thing to do is not talk about it or discourage people from looking at it or not mention it. Maybe nobody will notice. Beauty. What's up, Rockfinners? How you doing? I don't know what happened to my Rockfin feed here. Y'all still hanging in? Very good. Excellent. Yeah. Let's see. I'm going to check in on the coffees, tips, super rays, etc. If anybody has a comment they would like me to check out, I'll also check out the other locales, PayPals and whatnot. Alrighty. All right, guys. Let's see. One last thing I want to bring you today. In the U.S., when people tell you that that fascism is somehow just a something that the GOP or the right wing party or the supposed right wing party is behind, I don't know. Consider this. There was an amendment that would require warrants for spying on Americans up for a vote. And 126 Democrats voted no, joining 86 Republicans. So, what does that say? That says that there were more Democrats than Republicans that supported this bill that would not require a warrant for spying. It's already constitutionally, it's against the Constitution, right? It's prohibited constitutionally, but they're doing it, and they wanted to pass another bill that said that this is called, the vote was called FISA 702, that would require a warrant to search Americans' communications, which, by the way, is something the Constitution already requires. Anyways, more Republicans voted in favor of this bill than Democrats. So if you're wondering, who are the real purveyors of fascism, or who are the bringers of fascism? Well, you might be confused. Some Republicans wanted this. More Democrats wanted it. So in this case, it was more Republicans that were for requiring a warrant to spy on you. As it stands, the bill failed. And let's read this from Glenn Greenwald. On the amendment to require warrants for spying on Americans, 126 Democrats voted no, joining 86 Republicans. Congrats to the Biden White House, the NSA, and the FBI, and the establishment wing of both parties, unified as usual on their success in defeating warrant requirements. Again, this is not to lay blame solely on the Democrats, but just to explain how there really is no difference. If you're if you're a fan of all the oh my God, we have to vote for this person instead of that person because that person is going to bring the fascism. Well, if you understand that actually the fascism is already here and being voted for in favor of, that would be a yay by both parties, then you might have a clearer view on what is really going on. All right, guys, that's it. I'm gonna take off. I'm gonna leave you all to enjoy the rest of your Friday, and appreciate you joining in. I will see you on Monday, unless I see any of you on Sunday for the music thing on YouTube. I'm doing a show on YouTube on Sunday at 5 p.m. If anybody wants to come hang out and check that out, it would be great to see you. And otherwise, I will see you all on Monday at 11 a.m. Pacific. And until next time, peace.